Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and I really hope you're ready to do some fun art activities today. Make sure that you check out all my other videos. There's literally hundreds of ideas of art lessons that you can do and having fun with all different materials at home. But today I have a really exciting lesson. It's so cool because I'm going to teach you all about how to do art with others. So I've teamed up with another art teacher from the United States. Her name is Mrs. Thiel, and she's also got a fantastic YouTube channel. I've got the link below, so make sure you check her out. And we've actually made artworks for each other, and so they're half finished. We're sending them away across the world and we have to finish each other's artworks. Now, I really think you'll like this task because it has heaps of scope for creativity. You can be silly, you can be funny, or you can have a go at drawing realistically. So come with me and I'll show you exactly how to do it right now. While I've got you here, make sure that you like, comment and subscribe to the Art Life YouTube channel so you can come with me to do heaps of art in the future. The things you're going to need for step one of this task is firstly a piece of plain white paper. Today I'm working on A4 or 9 by 12 inch paper, just white is fine. You'll also need some scissors to cut with, some glue to stick, and a variety of magazines that you can have a browse through to cut out some little pictures. Pictures of animals are great, pictures of furniture, pictures of people, whatever you like. So grab some old magazines and have a bit of a rummage through to see what you can find. So I'm going to call this fun art lesson Mrs. B and Mrs. T's starting point. Now, this fun task is all about doing art with others and collaborating and using your creativity. So what's going to happen, and it's very, very exciting, is I'm going to create an artwork for Mrs. Thiel, and Mrs. Thiel is going to create an artwork for me. We're going to send it all the way from Australia. This is me. I'm sort of there. All the way over the Pacific Ocean to North America. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to draw in North America. And I'm going to send it all the way over here to Mrs. Thiel, and she's going to send one back to me. So in part one, you will see me create my starting point for Mrs. T. What that means is I'm going to use some different clippings from magazines, stick them onto my A4 piece of paper, and then she's going to have to put them all together, create an artwork based on these funny images.
Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Thiel here. The goal of this collaboration is to provide your partner with a collage that can be their starting point to a drawing.
Now, a starting point is really, really important. You might have experienced before that getting a piece of plain white paper sometimes is a bit mind-blowing. Sometimes it just stares at you and you're like, I don't know what to draw. What should I do? So a starting point is a really helpful technique to using your creativity. Starting point can be as simple as a shape and considering what you could turn that shape into. Or in this case, a starting point is going to be a series of images. I'm going to cut out some images from magazines. I've already grabbed a few that I thought stood out to me. And I'm going to stick them onto the piece of paper for Mrs. Thiel. Now then I'm going to send it to her, and she has to then turn what I give her into an artwork.
In art, composition means the arrangement of the elements. Take some time to really arrange those images so that you can create a composition that is balanced, interesting, and inspiring for your partner.
So the first step is going through some magazines and just noticing and thinking about some of the images you see and considering ones that might be funny, difficult, interesting for someone else to have a go at putting into an artwork. For example, I think this galah, this is an Australian bird, could be a really funny subject
to have on my paper as a bit of a starting point. So you could do a person, but just do their legs. So your friend has to draw the head, or you know, a monster on the head, something like that. You could just do a pair of shoes. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut out all my clippings. I'll cut them out and see how they look on the paper and arrange them. Oh, how cute's this dog? So in a classroom context, I would probably put the kids into pairs and then get them to create a Mrs. B and Mrs. T starting point for each other, and then swap and see what they come up with. Within a home context, you could do one for your sister or your brother and just work on it over time. Okay, so I've cut out some images as neatly as I can, and I have too many at the moment. As you can see, it takes up way too much of my page, and if I sort of just randomly stuck them down like this, I believe it would just be way too hard for my friend to make this artwork make sense. So we do need to be conscious of them and aware that we don't want to make it too complicated. So I'm going to take away a couple. Well, I'm going to leave the ones I definitely want. I love the dog. I think he's really cool. Would like to include the galah because it's a bit of an Aussie touch. I'll pop the hat up here because she might choose to draw someone under it. Now I found this image of some big lips. I feel like if I put that in here, it might just be way too tricky. What do you think? Should I do it? I don't know. All right, I think 7 is plenty. So I feel something like this is going to work on the other end for Mrs. Steele because she will have some space to kind of connect things together and make it as work as best she can. Obviously arrange them around just to see what you think, but we want to make it realistic and we want to be kind to our friends, don't we? We don't want to give them something that is just way, way, way too tricky. So now I'm going to work on gluing it down. Heaps of these birds where I live here in Queensland in Australia, and in the evening they make so much noise. They have parties in the trees. I can't wait to see what you do with this, Mrs. Steele. Ta-da! Haha. Good luck! All right, my next step is to pop this in the mailbox and send it off to Washington, DC. You'll need to head over to Mrs. Steele's Art Teacher YouTube channel to see what she does with this. And I've popped a link in the description below to make sure that you can find it. Bye-bye.
You're ready for the best part, which is trading your collage with your partner. It was so exciting to get this collage in the mail from Ms. Bevis. If you do this activity with art students, I would recommend trading collaborations with different classes or even among students in different grades.
I can't wait to see what you do with this, Mrs. Steele. Please don't hate me, I know I made it tricky.
She sure did make it tricky for me, but you know what, I will say, it was a problem that was fun to solve. That's the best part about this collaboration. It really gets your mind thinking.
It's arrived, guys. Woo!
In here is Mrs. Thiel's version of her artwork that now I need to add to and put it all together to turn it into just an overall artwork that makes sense. I'm so excited to see it. Let's reveal.
Took a few weeks, but it's here. Woohoo! Oh wow. Man, that's cool. But also really super tricky. You've given me a challenge. Have fun. I will.
Now, the first step when you're making the collage, that's the fun part because you just get to be a little bit silly and create something for someone else. But this part, you actually really need to use your imagination. You have a starting point, which means you have a few images to kind of guide you in where the artwork should go. Remember, the idea is to try to connect everything and try to make it so that the artwork makes sense. Now, this can be a crazy imaginative world like Alice in Wonderland. It can be a little bit kooky because it's an artwork, so it can be abstract, but the idea is to tie everything together as best you can. So the first thing I have thought of is, well, what could this be? What could I make this that makes sense? Now we've got a few very random sort of things. We've got sort of some furniture, we've got some animals, but these butterflies are really standing out to me. They kind of make me feel like it's a meadow or some sort of garden. So that's kind of going to be my theme. So firstly, I've thought of my theme, and now I'm going to try to find a way to connect everything to that theme. So obviously this person can just be someone within the garden. This hand could be holding something that makes sense within a garden context, like maybe they're holding a flower in their hand, maybe they're holding a watering can. You know, this is meant to be a piece of furniture, but I can see that that could also be a flower. So I could add some petals. So this is just where my brain is going. And the cool thing is that you might see something different and you might turn this artwork into something completely different. This is a very complicated version. Mrs. T and I are professionals, so we're happy to challenge each other. However, I do suggest you only start with 1 or 2 images, just to simplify this task until you get your head around it. So what you need for this part of the task is just a grey lead pencil, probably a rubber, and then something to outline with, like a texter or a fine liner to lock everything in once you've drawn it. So I'm going to go ahead now and just draw a few things to tie them together. I'm thinking I'm going to make this person hold a watering can. So I've started to tie things together. As you can see here, I've got the person holding a watering can, which is then dropping onto my girl's face here. I've added in a couple of extra butterflies for context, and created flowers out of these 2 objects here. I can add more detail obviously in these blank spaces just to tie it all together and give a bit of a skyscape as well. But for now, I'm pretty happy to lock in some of these things. But I guess my first step was to just get everything down. And then now I'm going to use my fine liner to add detail. So lock it all in. And if I make a mistake, I just have to try to fix it. Kind of like Mr. Squiggle. Am I showing my age? Mr. Squiggle was this TV show in Australia in the 80s, and it was actually a puppet that had a pencil for a nose. Look it up. It's called Mr. Squiggle. And what the viewers used to do is actually send in a piece of paper
that had starting points on it. A lot of the times it was things like shapes or, you know, strange random lines and patterns. And then Mr. Squiggle would then need to work out how to put the whole artwork together and join everything up so it became a picture. And he'd often do it while he was talking, and he'd do it upside down and then he'd turn it over and there'd be a big reveal. So you'd sort of add details, you know, to take the artwork and make it a scene of some sort. So this is a more simplified version of this same task. Obviously it's more complicated when you do images from a magazine, but this is a much more simple version if you're wanting to just use some lines and patterns just to get started. So I've just been working away, adding detail wherever I can. So blossoms, all different types. I've got some little insects here, dragonflies. This is a little bee that I draw because I'm Mrs. B. So when I am meeting new students, I always draw a little bee to help them remember, and that's what he looks like. So I thought I'd put him in there. Some of my students will recognize that guy. And the more you add, the more unique and interesting your artwork becomes. Patterns over here, little critters over here. Is it looking all right? What do you think? So it would be your choice now to either finish it off there, leave it as a line drawing, or you could use watercolors or pencils or crayons to add color to it and finish off the artwork really nicely. I'm going to sign my name because that is done.
Make sure to allow your partners to check back in with each other when they're finished so they can both see the end result.
So there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed this kind of tricky task and this collaboration with the amazing Mrs. Thiel from the US. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time.